So I'm from Leeds University. I'm studying fashion design. I'm in my second year, though my work's actually been handed in at the minute. So I thought I'd share with you some of my first year projects. They're quite different to what we've been designing recently. You get an idea of what kind of work I get to do in my modules. This module is about design and research and development. So we actually got to develop about 4 of these booklets by projects. They all vary in size. This one here was about the company Aqua. This stage has already carried out the research part of the project. So this is a massive amount of work on the company. So we get to visit the stores, a flagship store as well in London. And we get to look at the clothing, feel the new trends, talk to the assistants, talk to the managers, also to carry out research, through the internet, primary and secondary research, to find more and more about the company. Because if we're designing a collection for that company for the future, we need to know as much as we can about their signature style and the looks and the atmosphere and their target audience. So all that work is evaluated and talked about in projects. But this is the stage after. So this is the more exciting bit. So it's less on the history, but more on the trend. So we had to try and find a trend, which we did. And as you can see here, we created a mood board. So with my own images created, this was with one here. This is actually featured on DeviantArt and Flickr. I created my own image using different types of nail varnishes actually, but it creates kind of a different aquatic kind of look because the company is called Aqua. So I've done a colour palette down there as well. This was for a spring-summer design, so we're looking at bright colours, pop on. This was last year, so the trends are a bit different. So using different sites, I've managed to collect different pictures. Okay, let's just move on. This is the customer profile, so we're looking at the kind of people that go on the site. As you can see, I use social networking sites to kind of find out who the target audience were and what kind of personalities they had. This is my trend. It is sensory. If you can see there, lots of bright colours, patterns and prints. It's hard to find the right ones. As you can see here, this is the fun part. I travelled to Leicester, Birmingham, Nottingham Market to find these fabrics. Lots of different textures. I've got PVC, I've got ribbed, different types. I've got some really interesting silk prints on there as well, which are really, really nice to hold. And when making dresses, they flow really nicely for the summer. But obviously, you have to think about, texture, weight of the fabric, and how you're going to sew it. If you're going to design it, you need to know how it's going to work with the sewing machine. So then I started looking at fastenings. You can find these at haberdashery stores and different markets. I've gone for the chunkier beads and zips. Okay, I've gone for kind of a strong look. The sensory is about textures and feeling. So further on, we're looking at inspiration boards. So for tops, jackets, shorts and trousers and skirts, I've created a different board for each. And these images are actually found through primary and secondary resources. So I went in a lot of the high street shops, designer shops, in Leeds mainly, took a few sneaky pictures and popped them on work. So it gives me lots of ideas. Okay, so here's a few tops I designed. As you can see, you progress stage by stage to each image, and there's a really nice design print there. I've got a red jersey and I've got an orange overlay, so they work quite well together. And sensory, looking at transparencies as well. So this is a blue textured top. So I've got a range of tops, different silhouettes that I think will fit really nicely with their company. So I've got to look at their style. There's a lot of open holes and sections so you can see part of his skin. One shoulder designs, fitted jerseys, a big thing with Aqua as well. But I've added different, thin translucent fabrics, these chiffons that will create an effect. I've gone for like big bows. Not very flamboyant, the company's design. So if it's my own capsule collection, you want your own edge on the work, and I like things like that. But what's weird when looking through this project is I can see the quality of my design. So I've missed some top stitching off, I've missed where your overlocking's carried out, professional finishes that I should have added, which just comes through more of my second year work, and also application of colour. So if I look at this design here of this skirt, this puffball skirt, I've put colour everywhere, but really when you're showing a design, you only need to put it on one of the images, if there's any more than 2 or 3 colourways. So yeah, that was my project for Sensory Trend Aqua. A bit more of a different one was actually for All Saints. This is here. This is another one of my projects. So here you can actually see part of the research that was carried out. So let's go to the company again, talk to the assistants, talk to people I know personally that work there, try and get some interviews, try and find out their audience. As you can see here, I tried to develop my work a bit further. So I was using PowerPoint actually to create these, just experimenting different blocks. And this was for autumn winter, so I went for the more grey monochrome colours. This is mainly historic information, so it's not most exciting, but we use screenshots just to show evidence really of where we got our work from. So, you know, I use different magazines like Draper's. I always put subscription as well. Talking about the company, looking at different designs, what people thought about it. So again, I'm trying to find out more about the customers. Okay, so moving on. Oh yes, this is when I went into the shop myself and took some pictures of some of the clothing. Look at the detail and the design. With All Saints, they've got really interesting design features, so you might get one top made out of an actual square shape. They made a cord going around the neck, which is circular. When you pull it, you know, you get these really nice round the shoulder gathers, and it's just simple design, but you have to actually look at it in the shop to get an idea for it. Okay, so moving on a bit further, let's evaluate each stage of our work as well. You can see we're actually researching trends, so we use View magazines, we use trend websites, trying to get a feel for what kind of trend. And of course, I think with All Saints, it was autumn winter, so I went for a kind of a gothic theme, so I used crochets and lace, and they presented in my work. I tried to make it all very similar, so it looked professional as well. So I was looking at 30 silhouettes. This is an inspiration page. I've gone for architecture, gothic images, you can see there. Okay, so this is obviously a bit different to a previous project I just showed you in terms of the colours. So here we go, this is my board. I experimented putting a background on it as well. And I've got all my different bits and bobs on there. Tried to make it in a more organised way. These are the fastenings, so I've got lace, I've got chunky silver buttons, okay, I've got a neckline detail, so I found these at haberdashery stores and markets. Okay, here's some more designs. So I've got my jersey there. I've showed up just a little bit of tied up cord piece there of jersey as well. As you can see, I've put about 4 silhouettes on each page, and I've tried to work more on my colour because I thought it was a bit more messy and sketchy. I've just put it to a side so it's a bit faint. So you get an idea for the colour, but it's not telling you what the whole colour is. So each in turn with the tops, again, separately to the trousers, for example. Here we go, there's some more here, different designs, and basically I went through and did about 20 different designs, but what's different to last year to this year is that we're doing fashion illustrations and our work's more specific. So you do about 20-30 designs that you eventually scrap just for one final silhouette. So I have to show you them when I get my work back. It's much more detailed, and you have to think, you know, about exactly how it's made and every single stitch and why it's there. So that's really important. I'm doing a women's wear pathway, but I did actually last year do a bit on menswear, and that was for Ryland. So again, we did more research. This is another one of the projects. And these are all set deadlines as well. I think we had 3 weeks on each project. It's just one of the modules out of about 6. So it's quite a tight time schedule really. I mean, again, we've got print screenshots there. Everything you could to basically show evidence of your research, because it's really important to have really good research before you design anything. So again, I've got some more pictures there. I mean, this was menswear, so I couldn't personally go in the changing rooms myself, but you know, I used friends. You have to find any contacts you can to help you out, you know, to get the best research results. So here's my palette, just a bit more professional than my other one, as it was another further on project. So I chose little foam board squares. You can see different types of materials that were placed on there. It's quite fiddly. If you want a good professional finish, and these are my buttons. I've actually got some leather buttons here, and I found these at an antique shop. So if you shop around, you can really find what you want. So here's just some shirts, etc. I've got some trousers, patchwork. So just quite simplistic really, but it's all about the fabrics and the fastenings as well, and how you use them, because you can, especially for evening dresses, cutting on the bias, like Calvin Klein does, you can create 2 different effects, 2-tone effects, but it's just one colour and one fabric. So yeah, and all our work as well is put on a CD, which I strongly advise, because you've got it forever, and you can just put it in. If you got to go to an interview, you just can show your whole portfolio on it. Yeah. So if you've got any comments, or want to see more about my work, if you go on my sites, which are just written below, you can message me and follow my work. Okay.